This is Autohaus Hamilton. I'm James. I'm here to talk to you about car parts, and in this video I'm going to come clean. I'm going to come clean because I'm going to talk to you about filters, and that's the first of two dad jokes you're going to have to endure in this video. For the other one I'll give you a trigger warning so as not to catch you by surprise. Your car has filters to do a number of things. Depending on what type of car it is and how old it is, you'll certainly have an air filter, you will certainly have an oil filter, you may have a fuel filter, you may have a cabin particle filter to ensure that you get to breathe nice clean air. If it's an automatic transmission car, you'll have a transmission filter as well. The job of a filter is very simple. It's there to filter whatever happens to be passing through it. So the one that most people are familiar with is an oil filter. Before the invention of the oil filter, all that was in place by way of a very rudimentary filtration was a gauze screen over the oil pump pickup, which would have stopped the worst bits of debris from finding their way through the oil pump and back through the engine. Bear in mind also that in the early days of the internal combustion engine, oil put into the engine typically found its way out of the engine before it had time to pick up much by way of contamination, either by being burnt and exiting through the exhaust pipe or just by leaking its way out of the engine. And here's an example of the oil filter that we use in 986 Boxsters, in 996 Series 911s and Generation 1 997 911s, as well as in the V8 Cayennes. This filter is a small cartridge type filter, so this filter element is all that's replaced. Now, the earliest filters were cartridge filters, where all that was replaced was, as you'd expect, the cartridge, the bit that does the actual filtering work. And then the world moved on to spin-on filters, something like this one. And in recent times we've gone back, I suspect largely for environmental reasons, to a cartridge filter. It's much lighter, it's much cheaper, much easier to manufacture, and there's less wastage because you aren't throwing a whole hunk of steel away at the end of the filter's life. The key to any filter is twofold. The two elements are the porosity, so how big the pores are in the filter medium. The other aspect to it is surface area. The greater the surface area you have, the more space you have available to do filtration. So an air filter, for instance, looks something like this. Looks a bit like the gills of a fish, where instead of having just a flat filter element, we increase the surface area by pleating it. And that's exactly what we do in an oil filter cartridge like this as well. And what I did as part of my setup for this video was to see, well, just how big or how much surface area do we actually have. So we have a whole number of pleats, and you might be interested to know how many pleats there are here, but let's face it, how much of a nerd do you think I am that I'm going to count all of these pleats? Okay, there are 69 pleats in this particular filter. And what those pleats do is to dramatically increase the surface area, because this little filter, when you take it apart, we end up with a much larger filtration element than you would expect. Now, if we stretch that out, that little filter ends up being about 1.7 meters worth of filtration medium. What we end up with is an area of around 1,800 square centimeters, which is about 8 times the surface area we'd have if we just had some filter medium wrapped around the outside of that cylinder. Now, here comes the second dad joke, and this one isn't even mine. Oil filters go back to 1923, which was when they were first invented by two dads. We know they were invented by two dads because of the name they came up with. They decided to call their business Purolator. You can still buy Purolator filters. They're now part of the Mann and Hummel group. The reason they decided on the name Purolator was because they figured if you used their filters, you would get, wait for it, you would get pure oil later, hence Purolator. And Purolator filters are still relevant if you own a classic 911, because if you want to get that just so perfect, just right concourse look for your car, you can get a special classic filter, which still bears, I'm hoping you can read this, which still bears the Purolator brand. So there's a dad joke you can have in your engine bay every time you look at it. You were warned. The 993 Series 911 is the only car that I know of that has not one but two oil filters. The idea of the second oil filter is that it's placed within the oil circulation circuit in such a way that if the engine suffers a major calamity, although the oil pump will end up being toast, hopefully that second filter will trap enough of the debris to save the rest of the engine. As ever, thank you very much for watching. If there's anything you'd like us to cover in these videos, please get in touch. We'd love to hear from you, and thank you very much for watching.